They said it was hopeless. The alien scientists threw up their hands and declared the remote Federation outpost doomed, its power core decaying as the exotic matter needed to fuel it mysteriously broke down. An entire sector and millions of lives were on the line as the crisis rapidly escalated. With time running out and the brightest minds of the Galactic Federation at a loss, the arrogant Andorians leading the efforts were forced to consider a final, desperate option: letting a human try to solve a problem they deemed impossible. Bobby Phillips couldn't believe the sneering contempt on the face of the lead Andorian researcher Murloc as the alien begrudgingly revealed they needed outside help. Maybe, Murloc spat, even from the humans. Bobby had heard that kind of derision towards his species ever since humanity joined the Galactic Federation. He was used to being underestimated and looked down upon by the superior alien races. But now, with an unprecedented energy crisis threatening an entire sector, Bobby saw a chance to prove what humanity was really made of. He immediately volunteered to tackle the issue head-on. Murloc and the other Andorian scientists openly scoffed. A mere human, thinking he could solve a problem so far beyond their own vast intellect and advanced technology. The arrogance, the absurdity. But with no alternatives and the clock ticking, they reluctantly agreed to let the lowly human take a shot, fully expecting him to fail miserably. As Bobby dug into the challenge, he quickly realized the sheer scale and complexity of the crisis. The outpost was powered by a core that ran on exotic matter harvested from the nearby nebula. But now that matter had begun to strangely degrade and break down, threatening a catastrophic chain reaction that would devastate the entire sector. Millions would die if a solution wasn't found, and soon. The weight of the galaxy itself seemed to press down on Bobby's shoulders. He knew that failure here wouldn't just mean a tragic loss of life. It would also irreparably damage humanity's reputation within the Federation. It would confirm every bigoted alien belief that humans were primitive, inferior, and incapable of rising to the challenge. Bobby refused to let that happen. Throwing himself into the problem with single-minded determination, he started devising radical new approaches. While the Andorian scientists stuck stubbornly to their usual methods, Bobby thought outside the box like only a human could. He considered innovative engineering solutions and unconventional fixes that Murloc and the others had prematurely ruled out. Ignoring their constant scorn and doubt, Bobby let his human ingenuity and grit guide him as he formulated a daring plan to stabilize the disintegrating power core. It was a plan the Andorians had previously dismissed as preposterous and unworkable, but Bobby was determined to prove them wrong and show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. But implementing his bold strategy wouldn't be easy. As the deteriorating reactor edged ever closer to a cataclysmic meltdown, Bobby faced the dual challenges of solving the complex technological issues and battling the derision of Murloc and the Andorian scientists at every turn. They questioned and criticized his every move, just waiting for his primitive human mind to hit a wall. Bobby didn't have the luxury of time to argue with their contempt. He forged ahead with his audacious plan, jury-rigging creative solutions and drawing on unorthodox human techniques the rigidly conventional Andorians would never consider. He worked feverishly as the seconds ticked away, knowing that millions of lives and humanity's standing in the Federation hung in the balance. Finally, amazingly, Bobby's mad scheme started to bear fruit. The power core stabilized little by little, defying the Andorians' judgment of what was possible. A glimmer of hope dawned as a sustainable resolution came into view. Murloc and the others could only watch in slack-jawed awe as this mere human achieved the impossible. But the battle wasn't over yet. Just as total victory seemed at hand, an unexpected new wrinkle emerged in the crisis, threatening to undo all of Bobby's hard-fought gains. With disaster still looming over the sector, Bobby realized he'd have to dig even deeper to adapt and find a way through this final complication. He poured every ounce of his creativity and resolve into the task, stretching the boundaries of human innovation to their limits. There was no giving up now, not with the fate of countless lives and humanity's respect on the galactic stage at stake. This was humanity's chance to shine against all odds and expectations. Failure was not an option. One way or another, Bobby would prove to these pompous aliens that when humanity is put to the ultimate test, they find a way to triumph, no matter what it takes. Bobby's fingers fly across the control panel, his brow furrowed in concentration as he implements his daring plan. The power core pulses erratically, its containment field flickering dangerously as the exotic matter decay rate surges beyond all predictions. Warning lights flash red, and alarms blare throughout the outpost. "Evacuation protocol initiated," announces the station's AI. "All personnel to escape pods immediately." Murloc grabs Bobby's shoulder. "It's over, human. We need to go now before this whole place goes critical." Bobby shrugs him off, eyes never leaving the data flowing across his screen. "I can do this, Murloc. I can stop the surge. Just give me a chance." "Your arrogance will doom us all." Murloc turns to his team. "Begin evacuation procedures. That's an order." The Andorians hesitate, looking between their leader and the determined human. Bobby slams his fist on the console. "Damn it, Murloc, look at this." He jabs a finger at the pulsing graph. "The decay rate, it's not random. There's a pattern here, a complex resonance. If I can just match the frequency." Murloc studies the data, realization dawning. He barks to his team. "Belay that order. The human may be onto something." Bobby's hands dance over the interface, adjusting the magnetic field generators in a desperate attempt to rein in the exotic matter decay. The power core groans and shudders, flaring brightly. Murloc and the others shield their eyes against the blinding light. "Is it working?" one Andorian asks nervously. Sweat pours down Bobby's face as he fine-tunes the resonance. Slowly, amazingly, the decay rate starts to level off. The containment field stops fluctuating and begins to stabilize. "It's holding," Bobby says through gritted teeth. "But it's not over yet. The core is still in a precarious state. One wrong move and this whole sector goes up in flames." He monitors the reactions intently, making minute adjustments on the fly. There's no room for error now. Millions of lives hang in the balance. Each pulsation of the core thunders through the outpost, shaking it to its very foundation. For hours, Bobby maintains his vigil, Murloc and the Andorians assisting however they can. But it all rests on the humans' ingenuity and grit. Time seems to stretch, each second an eternity as they fight to wrestle the power core back from the brink of oblivion. Just when it seems Bobby's strength may falter, the core pulses one final time and falls still. The flashing warning lights wink out and the alarms fade. An eerie silence grips the outpost. Bobby slumps back into his chair, utterly drained. "Equilibrium achieved," he croaks. "The decay has stopped. We did it." Murloc collapses beside him. "You did it, human. You've saved us, saved the sector. I was wrong about you, about humanity." As the truth sinks in, cheers erupt from the Andorians. They clap Bobby on the back, marveling at the impossible feat this lowly human has achieved. But even as they celebrate, Murloc frowns at the power core readouts. "Something's not right here," he mutters. "This decay. I've never seen anything like it. It's almost as if..." He meets Bobby's eyes, a dark realization passing between them. As if it was intentional. Not a natural occurrence, but an attack. Bobby nods grimly. "We may have stopped the crisis today, but I fear this is just the beginning. Someone or something out there triggered this, and they may strike again." Murloc sighs heavily. "Then it seems we have a new challenge ahead of us, to uncover the truth behind this calamity, and you may be just the human to help us do it." He extends his hand to Bobby. As Bobby clasps it firmly, a new sense of purpose fills him. He came here to prove humanity's worth. But now, the stakes are even higher. The fate of the Federation, the entire galaxy, may depend on him seeing this through, no matter where the path may lead. Bobby hunched over the console, his eyes scanning the streams of data flowing across the screen. Murloc peered over his shoulder, antennae twitching with curiosity. "There," Bobby said, pointing to an anomalous sequence. "That's not normal decay. It's too structured, too precise." Murloc nodded, his earlier skepticism evaporating. You're right. This is no natural phenomenon. Someone did this deliberately. They spent days poring over the data, tracing the source of the sabotage. Bobby's human intuition combined with Murloc's Andorian expertise as they followed the digital breadcrumbs. Got it, Bobby exclaimed, smacking his head on the console. The signal originates from these coordinates. Murloc's eyes widened. That's impossible. There's nothing there. It's uncharted space. But the evidence was irrefutable. They presented their findings to the Federation Council, but were met with disbelief and dismissal. Preposterous, sneered one Andorian counselor. You expect us to believe an unknown race has been spying on us? Absurd. Undeterred, Bobby and Murloc commandeered a small scout ship and set off for the mysterious coordinates. As they approached, their sensors went haywire. Some kind of stealth technology, Murloc muttered, unlike anything I've ever seen. They landed on a planet shrouded in a shimmering energy field. Donning enviro suits, they ventured out, weapons at the ready. The alien city they discovered was a marvel of technology. Sleek structures pulsed with energy, and beings moved about with fluid grace. Zephyrians, a voice behind them said. They spun to face a tall, ethereal creature. Welcome to our world. We've been expecting you. The Zephyrian revealed their long-held resentment towards the Federation, especially the Andorians. Your arrogance blinds you, it hissed. We will no longer be ignored. Bobby and Murloc barely escaped, their ship groaning under Zephyrian weapons fire as they fled back to Federation space. But their ordeal was far from finished. The Federation Council remained skeptical, even as reports of Zephyrian attacks flooded in. We need to act now, Bobby shouted, pounding the council chamber table. But bureaucracy moved slowly, even in the face of crisis. Frustrated, Bobby retreated to his lab, Murloc at his side. If they won't listen, we'll have to solve this ourselves, Bobby growled. As they worked tirelessly on a detection system to counter Zephyrian stealth tech, news of more attacks poured in. Federation outposts fell silent one by one. Bobby wiped sweat from his brow, soldering another component into place. We're running out of time, Murloc. The Federation is crumbling. Murloc nodded grimly. Then we'd better work faster, human. The future of the cosmos depends on us. Their fingers flew over consoles and circuitry as alarms blared throughout the station. The Zephyrians were coming, and only Bobby and Murloc stood between them and the fall of the Federation. Bobby hit his fist on the council chamber table, frustration etched across his face. You have to listen. The Zephyrians are real, and they're coming for us all. The Andorian counselor's antennae twitched in irritation. We've indulged your wild theories long enough, human. The Federation has real threats to deal with, not imaginary boogeymen. Murloc stepped forward, his voice tight with barely contained anger. With all due respect, Counselor, Bobby's wild theories saved millions of lives during the power core crisis. We can't afford to dismiss this. But the council remained unmoved. As they filed out of the chamber, Bobby turned to Murloc, his eyes blazing with willpower. We need proof, hard evidence they can't ignore. Murloc nodded grimly. I know just the place. There's a remote asteroid base we've long suspected of harboring Zephyrian activity, but it's deep in uncharted space. Then that's where we're going, Bobby declared. They commandeered a small stealth ship, slipping away from the Federation outpost under cover of darkness. For days, they navigated treacherous asteroid fields and radiation storms, their sensors straining to detect any sign of Zephyrian technology. Finally, they spotted it, a massive asteroid pulsing with an unnatural energy signature. Bobby whistled low. That's no natural formation. Murloc's fingers danced over the controls, searching for a way in. There, a small opening in their sensor grid. If we time it just right. The ship shuddered as they squeezed through the gap, alarms blaring as proximity sensors screamed warnings. They touched down in a hidden cavern, the rock walls vibrating with hidden power. Bobby and Murloc donned their enviro suits, weapons at the ready. They crept through winding corridors, dodging patrols of ethereal Zephyrian guards. "There," Murloc hissed, pointing to a heavily fortified door. "That must be their central command." Bobby pulled out a device of his own invention, attaching it to the security panel. Numbers scrolled across the screen as it cycled through combinations at lightning speed. With a soft beep, the door slid open. Inside, holographic displays filled the air, detailing intricate plans and schematics. Bobby's eyes widened as he took in the scope of the Zephyrian schemes. My God, they're planning to hit Andoria itself. Murloc's face paled. "We have to warn them." They quickly downloaded as much data as they could, but alarms began to blare throughout the facility. "They've detected us!" Bobby shouted. They ran for their ship, Zephyrian energy blasts sizzling past their heads. The small craft rocketed out of the asteroid, weaving through a hail of weapons fire. "Hold on!" Murloc yelled as he pushed the engines beyond their limits. They burst through the asteroid field, leaving their pursuers behind. Back at the Federation capital, they burst into the council chambers, breathless and disheveled. "We have proof," Bobby declared, slamming the data chip onto the table. But before the counselors could even examine the evidence, a junior officer burst in, his face ashen. "Sirs, we're detecting a massive surge of exotic matter decay, coming from Andoria." The room erupted into chaos. The Zephyrians had struck, targeting the very heart of the Federation. Bobby turned to Murloc, his mind already racing. "We need to get to Andoria, now." Murloc nodded, his expression grim. "You have a plan?" "I'm working on it," Bobby replied as they raced for the nearest ship. "But we're going to need every ounce of that famed human ingenuity to pull this off." As their ship rocketed towards Andoria, Bobby pored over the planet's energy grid schematics, formulating a desperate plan that would push the limits of science and put billions of lives in his hands. Bobby's fingers flew across the control panel, adjusting parameters and fine-tuning frequencies as he and Murloc raced to implement the resonance field around Andoria. Alarms blared throughout the control room, warning of the rapidly escalating exotic matter decay. "We're running out of time," Murloc growled, his antennae twitching with anxiety. Bobby nodded, not taking his eyes off the screen. "I know, but we can't rush this. One wrong calculation and we could make things worse." A commotion outside drew their attention. An Andorian official burst into the room, flanked by security personnel. "Halt this operation immediately," the official demanded. "We cannot allow an untested human theory to endanger our world." Murloc stepped forward, placing himself between the officials and Bobby. "This plan has been authorized by the Council. We must proceed." The official's face contorted with rage. "The Council does not speak for all Andorians. We will not be guinea pigs for human experimentation." Bobby turned from his console, facing the group. "Please listen to me. I know you're scared, but this isn't an experiment. It's our only chance to save Andoria." The official hesitated, uncertainty flashing across his face. Bobby seized the moment, activating a nearby view screen. It displayed a live feed of Andoria's surface, where the effects of the exotic matter decay were becoming visible. Cracks spiderwebbed across ice sheets, and strange energy fluctuations rippled through the atmosphere. "Look at your world," Bobby urged. "Every second we waste arguing brings it closer to destruction. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust the science." The room fell silent as the Andorians watched their homeworld slowly unraveling before their eyes. Finally, the official stepped back, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "Proceed," he said quietly, "but know that if this fails, the blood of Andoria will be on your hands." Bobby nodded solemnly, returning to his work with renewed urgency. Hours blurred together as he and Murloc coordinated with planetary defense forces and power grid operators, integrating their systems into the resonance field network. Just as they neared the activation phase, Murloc received an urgent communication. His face paled as he listened. "Bobby," he said, his voice tight, "we have a problem. A group of hardline officers has seized control of key power grid facilities. They're threatening to shut down the entire network unless we abort the mission." Bobby's mind raced, considering their options. Suddenly, an idea struck him. The resonance field, he muttered. We can use it against them. Murlock's eyes widened. What are you suggesting? If we modulate the field's frequencies just right, we can disrupt their neural functions, Bobby explained. It won't harm them permanently, but it'll knock them out long enough for us to regain control. Murlock hesitated, torn between his duty and his people. Are you certain it won't cause lasting damage? Bobby met his gaze steadily. I stake my life on it. After a moment's consideration, Murlock nodded. Do it. Bobby's hands danced across the controls, adjusting the resonance field's output. As the coup forces converged on the primary power grid nexus, he activated the modified field. A soft hum filled the air as invisible waves of energy radiated outward. On the security feeds, they watched as the rebel Andorians stumbled, their movements becoming uncoordinated. One by one, they collapsed to the ground, unconscious but unharmed. With the immediate threat neutralized, Bobby and Murlock turned their full attention to the larger crisis. They worked feverishly, bringing the full resonance field online and synchronizing it with Andoria's power grid. As the field reached critical mass, a shimmering energy cocoon enveloped the planet. The control room fell silent, everyone holding their breath as they waited to see if the gambit would pay off. Slowly, agonizingly, the indicators on Bobby's console began to stabilize. The exotic matter decay rate dropped, then flatlined. Bobby sagged in his chair, exhaustion and relief washing over him. It worked, he breathed. We did it. Murlock clasped his shoulder, a rare smile breaking across his face. No, my friend, you did it. You saved Andoria. As the reality of their success sank in, the control room erupted in cheers. Bobby looked out at the view screen, watching as the shimmering field protected the icy world below. He knew that this was just the beginning. The Zephyrian threat still loomed, and there would be more challenges ahead. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of pride. Humanity had proven its worth, not through aggression or dominance, but through ingenuity and cooperation. The Federation Council chamber buzzed with tension as Bobby and Murlock stood before the assembled dignitaries. Holographic displays flickered, showing the aftermath of the Andorian crisis. Your quick thinking saved billions, the Tellarite ambassador grunted, his tusks quivering. But it seems our troubles are just the beginning. A Vulcan counselor stepped forward, her face a mask of stoic concern. We've intercepted disturbing communications. The attack on Andoria was merely a diversion. Bobby's stomach clenched. A diversion for what? The room darkened as a new hologram sprang to life, displaying a complex array of planetary orbits. At its center, a pulsing energy nexus drew all eyes. The millennial realignment, Murlock breathed, his antennae twitching. It's due to begin in less than a standard week. The Vulcan nodded. Correct. This cosmic event stabilizes the orbits of over 50 Federation worlds. If disrupted, chaos, Bobby finished, his mind racing. Entire planets thrown out of alignment, billions more lives at risk. An urgent comm signal cut through the chamber. A breathless junior officer appeared on screen. Counselors, we've detected Zephyrian energy signatures at multiple realignment sites. They're already in position to strike. The chamber erupted in panicked shouts. Bobby turned to Murlock, his eyes blazing with drive. We need a team, the best of the best. Hours later, Bobby stood before a hastily assembled group of elite operatives. Zara, a human astrophysicist with wild red hair and a sharp wit, pored over gravitational data. Beside her, Terran, an Andorian tactical genius, checked and rechecked his weapons. Our mission is clear, Bobby addressed the group. Find the Zephyrian operatives, neutralize their threat, and ensure the realignment proceeds. The fate of the Federation rests in our hands. Their ship cut through the inky blackness of space, racing towards a remote asteroid field. Scanners hummed, searching for any trace of cloaked Zephyrian technology. There, Zara shouted, pointing to a fluctuation in the sensor readings. That asteroid, it's not natural. Terran's fingers danced across the tactical console. Confirmed. I'm detecting a massive power signature, some kind of disruptor array. Bobby nodded grimly. That's our target. Murloc, take us in. Stealth approach. The ship glided silently through the asteroid field, maneuvering past jagged rocks and debris. As they neared their destination, a shimmering distortion revealed the hidden Zephyrian base. They've spotted us, Murloc shouted, as energy blasts lanced out from concealed weapon emplacements. The ship rocked violently. Alarms blared as systems overloaded. Bobby grabbed the command chair, steadying himself. Terran, return fire. Zara, find us a way inside that base. Terran's hands flew across his console, unleashing a barrage of precision strikes. Zara's eyes narrowed as she analyzed the base's structure. There, a weak point in their shielding. If we can get a boarding party through... Bobby nodded. Do it. Murloc, you're with me. Zara, coordinate from here. Terran, you have point on the assault team. They raced to the airlock, donning combat suits. The ship shuddered as it maneuvered closer to the Zephyrian base. With a hiss of depressurization, the airlock opened, and Bobby's team leapt into the void. Magnetic grapples latched onto the base's hull. Bobby activated his suit's cutting torch, carving an entrance. They burst inside, weapons at the ready. Ethereal Zephyrian guards materialized, their energy weapons flaring to life. Terran moved with lightning speed, his tactical training evident as he dropped 2 guards in quick succession. This way! Bobby shouted, following the pulsing energy signature of the disruptor array. They fought their way through winding corridors, the air thick with weapons fire and the acrid smell of fried circuitry. They reached a massive chamber, dominated by a towering array of crystals and energy conduits. Bobby's eyes widened as he took in the scale of the Zephyrian weapon. We need to shut it down, he breathed, moving towards the main control panel. A blast of energy sizzled past his head. Bobby spun to see a group of Zephyrian soldiers pouring into the chamber. Terran leapt forward, placing himself between Bobby and the attackers. Go! Terran shouted. I'll hold them off. Bobby hesitated for a split second, then nodded. He and Murloc raced to the control panel, fingers flying as they worked to decipher the alien technology. The sounds of battle filled the air. Bobby risked a glance back, his heart sinking as he saw Terran take a direct hit. The Andorian crumpled to the ground, blue blood seeping from a grievous wound. Terran! Bobby shouted, torn between his fallen comrade and the mission. Murloc grabbed his arm. We can't stop now. The entire Federation is counting on us. Bobby's mind raced, weighing impossible choices. With a heavy heart, he made his decision. Zara, he shouted into his comm. I need an emergency extraction team for Terran and send reinforcements to the realignment sites immediately. We've got Zephyrians on the move. As Zara acknowledged the orders, Bobby turned back to the disruptor array. The fate of billions hung in the balance, and time was running out. Bobby's eyes scanned the primary realignment site, a massive array of crystalline structures pulsing with energy. Zara crouched beside him, her wild red hair tucked beneath a combat helmet. They're coming, she whispered, her eyes fixed on a handheld sensor. Multiple signatures approaching from the southeast quadrant. Bobby nodded, tapping his comm unit. All teams, prepare for contact. Remember, we hold this line at all costs. The air crackled with tension as Federation forces took up defensive positions. Moments later, the first wave of Zephyrian saboteurs materialized, their cloaking fields shimmering as they faded. Weapons fire erupted, filling the air with searing bolts of energy. Bobby ducked behind a control panel, returning fire with precision. Beside him, Zara coordinated the defense, her voice steady as she directed their forces. Flank team, push left. We've got a gap in Sector 3. The battle raged, each side fighting with desperate intensity. Bobby watched as a young Tellarite officer fell, his tusks singed by a near miss. Without hesitation, Bobby leapt from cover, dragging the wounded ally to safety. As he applied a med patch, his comm unit buzzed. Terran's voice, strained but urgent, filled his ear. Bobby, we've identified the mole. It's Admiral Vex. He's transmitting realignment data to the Zephyrians as we speak. Bobby's blood ran cold. Can you stop the transmission? Negative, Teren replied. We're en route to his location now, but... The transmission cut off abruptly. Bobby swore, his mind racing. If the Zephyrians got those coordinates... Zara! He shouted over the din of battle. We need to recalibrate the realignment array. Now! Understanding flashed in her eyes. They fought their way to the main control hub, Zara's fingers flying over the alien interface. If we shift the resonance frequency, she muttered, we might be able to throw off their calculations. A massive explosion rocked the facility. Bobby stumbled, steadying himself against the console. Through the smoke and chaos, he saw a new wave of Zephyrian forces pouring in. We're out of time, he growled. Do it. Zara input the final command. The crystalline structures surrounding them pulsed, emitting a low, thrumming tone. For a moment, everything seemed to hang in perfect stillness. Then, chaos erupted. The Zephyrian forces faltered, their weapons misfiring as the altered resonance field interfered with their technology. Bobby seized the opportunity, rallying his team for a counterattack. As they pushed forward, driving the saboteurs back, Bobby's thoughts turned to Teren and the hunt for Admiral Vex. He could only hope they'd succeed in time. The fate of the Federation hung in the balance, and the battle was nowhere near the end. The air crackled with energy as Bobby and Zara huddled behind a fractured control panel. Disruptor fire sizzled overhead, leaving scorch marks on the once pristine walls of the realignment chamber. Bobby's eyes darted between the failing shield generator and the pulsing core of the realignment mechanism. We can't hold out much longer, Zara shouted over the din, her wild red hair singed at the edges. If we lose the core, billions will die. Bobby's mind raced, weighing their dwindling options. He watched a young Tellarite ensign take a glancing hit, crying out in pain as he stumbled back to cover. Zara, can you boost the gravitational distortion field? Bobby asked, his voice urgent but steady. Her fingers flew across her datapad, brow furrowed in concentration. I can, but it'll drain power from the core. We might not have enough juice to complete the realignment. A nearby explosion rocked the chamber, showering them with debris. Bobby made his decision. Do it. We need breathing room. Zara nodded, inputting a rapid sequence of commands. The air around them shimmered as localized gravity wells sprang to life. Zephyrian soldiers stumbled, their aim thrown off by the sudden shifts in weight and balance. Bobby seized the moment, leading a counterattack. All units push forward. Target their heavy weapons. Federation forces surged ahead, exploiting the Zephyrians' disorientation. Bobby's modified sensors highlighted the cloaked enemies, allowing pinpoint strikes against their positions. But even as they gained ground, Bobby knew it was temporary. The realignment core's energy levels were dropping precipitously. They needed a new strategy, fast. His comm unit crackled to life. Teren's voice, tense but triumphant, came through. Bobby, we've got Krell. The transmission's been stopped, but they already have the coordinates, Bobby finished grimly. A deafening roar filled the air as a massive Zephyrian warship decloaked directly above the facility. Its weapons ports glowed ominously, preparing to rain destruction upon the core. Bobby turned to Zara, his face set with fierce intensity. We're not abandoning this site. Too many lives at stake. We make our stand here. Zara nodded, a mix of fear and drive in her eyes. What's the play? Bobby's gaze locked onto the pulsing realignment core. We use their own strategy against them. Zara, I need you to create a false energy signature. Make them think we're moving the core. Understanding dawned on her face. A decoy, but that'll leave us exposed. It's our only shot, Bobby said, already moving to reconfigure the defense grid. I'll coordinate our remaining forces to sell the deception. We just need to buy enough time for the realignment to complete. As Zara worked her technological magic, Bobby rallied the defenders. The air hummed with tension as they waited for the Zephyrians to take the bait. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Then, with a thunderous boom, the warship opened fire on an empty section of the facility. "Now!" Bobby roared. "All units, concentrate fire on their exposed ventral shields." The chamber erupted in a furious exchange of weapons fire. Bobby and Zara fought side by side, pouring every ounce of their skill and perseverance into this final, desperate stand. The chamber shook violently as another disruptor blast struck dangerously close to the core mechanism. Bobby grabbed Zara's arm, steadying her as they crouched behind a sparking control panel. "We can't abandon this site," Bobby shouted over the din of battle. "Too many lives at stake." Zara nodded, her eyes blazing with fierce commitment. "Agreed, but we need a plan, fast." Bobby's gaze darted to the gravitational generators lining the chamber walls. An idea sparked in his mind. "The generators! We can use them to create localized distortion fields." Zara's eyes widened in understanding. "Brilliant! It'll make their targeting systems go haywire." They sprang into action. Bobby raced to the main control hub, fingers flying over the interface as he rerouted power. Zara coordinated with the remaining Federation forces, positioning them strategically around the core. "Everyone, brace yourselves," Bobby called out. He activated the sequence. The air rippled and warped. Gravity shifted unpredictably throughout the chamber. Zephyrian disruptor fire veered wildly off course, missing their targets by meters. "It's working," Zara exclaimed, "but it won't hold them off forever. We need a more permanent solution." Bobby nodded grimly. "Zara, I need you to analyze their disruptor tech. Find a weakness we can exploit. I'll coordinate our defenses." As Zara dove into the complex alien systems, Bobby organized their remaining forces into a mobile defensive matrix. They darted from cover to cover, striking at the disoriented Zephyrians before melting away again. "Bobby!" Zara's voice crackled over the comm. "I found something. Their targeting systems are vulnerable to specific tachyon frequencies." Bobby's mind raced. "The auxiliary power grid. We can repurpose it to generate a tachyon pulse." "Exactly," Zara confirmed, "but we'll need perfect timing." Bobby outlined the plan quickly. Zara would manipulate the distortion fields, herding the Zephyrians into a kill zone. At the critical moment, Bobby would trigger the tachyon pulse, blinding their weapons. The next few minutes were a blur of frantic activity. Zara's hands danced across her console, weaving an intricate tapestry of gravitational distortions. Bobby watched the Zephyrian strike force on the tactical display, his hand hovering over the tachyon pulse controls. "Now!" Zara shouted. Bobby slammed his palm down. A wave of invisible energy pulsed outward, the chamber filled with the sound of malfunctioning disruptors and confused Zephyrian shouts. "All units, engage!" Bobby roared. Federation forces surged forward. Phaser fire cut through the air, striking the helpless Zephyrians. Within moments, the tide of battle had turned. As the last Zephyrian fell, Bobby allowed himself a moment of relief. But it was short-lived. Terran's voice crackled over the comm. "Bobby, we've got Krell, but there's more. A Zephyrian dreadnought is incoming. It's armed with a massive disruptor cannon." Bobby's blood ran cold. He turned to Zara, saw the same realization in her eyes. Their victory had been temporary. "How long do we have?" Bobby asked. "Minutes, at most," Terran replied. "But there's good news. The dreadnought's weapon is vulnerable to the same tachyon frequency." Bobby's mind whirled. "Zara, the gravitational generators. Can we create artificial singularities?" Zara's eyes lit up. "Yes, we can use them to project a tachyon field, but we'll need to lure the dreadnought into position." They worked feverishly, reprogramming the generators. As the massive Zephyrian warship loomed into view, its cannon glowing with ominous energy, Bobby and Zara put their plan into motion. Singularities flared to life around the realignment site. The dreadnought's weapon faltered, its energy dispersing harmlessly. "Now!" Bobby shouted. "All units, concentrate fire!" The combined firepower of the Federation forces lanced out, striking the dreadnought's compromised shields. Hull plates buckled and tore under the assault. Slowly, agonizingly, the massive ship began to turn. Its engines flared as it retreated, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. Bobby and Zara watched as the dreadnought limped away, the immediate threat neutralized. The final stages of the realignment ceremony continued uninterrupted, cosmic balance restored. The acrid smell of burned circuitry and ozone filled the air as Bobby surveyed the devastation around him. The realignment chamber, once a marvel of alien technology, now lay in ruins. Debris littered the floor, and the low hum of failing systems echoed through the cavernous space. "We did it," Zara breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. She stood beside Bobby, her uniform torn and singed, a thin trickle of blood running down her temple. Bobby nodded, unable to shake the hollow feeling in his chest. At what cost? The chamber doors hissed open, and Terran limped in, supported by a young Andorian ensign. His face was grim as he approached. "The Zephyrian forces are in full retreat," he reported, "but our losses are substantial." Bobby closed his eyes, the weight of command pressing down on him. How bad? 17 outposts destroyed, casualties in the thousands. We're still getting reports from... A sharp beep from Zara's datapad interrupted him. Her eyes widened as she scanned the incoming transmission. "It's from Starfleet Command," she said, her voice tight. They're calling us heroes. There's going to be a ceremony." Bobby felt a surge of anger. "A ceremony? While we're still counting our dead?" Terran placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's not just that. They want us for debriefing. Apparently the prisoner Krell has been talking." The trio exchanged uneasy glances. Something in Terran's tone set Bobby on edge. "What did he say?" Terran's voice dropped low. "The Zephyrians weren't working alone. There's another player in this game, one we've never encountered before. They call themselves the Krillians." Bobby's blood ran cold. He looked around the battered chamber, at the exhausted faces of his comrades, and knew that their fight was nowhere near the end. "We need to move," he said, his voice steely. "If there's a bigger threat out there, we can't waste time on ceremonies and politics." Zara nodded, already tapping commands into her datapad. "I'll start gathering intel on these Krillians. We'll need every scrap of information we can get." As they made their way out of the chamber, Bobby's mind raced. The Federation had barely survived this assault. If the Krillians were truly as dangerous as Krell suggested, they needed to act fast. "Terran," he said, "I need you to put together a team, the best of the best. We're going to hit the Krillians before they can hit us." Terran's eyes gleamed with a mix of excitement and apprehension. A preemptive strike? The Council will never approve. Bobby's face hardened. "Then we do it off the books. I won't stand by and watch another massacre." As they stepped out into the corridor, alarms blared. Emergency crews rushed past, carrying wounded on stretchers. The air was thick with fear and uncertainty. Bobby watched it all, his drive hardening. Whatever the cost, whatever the risk, he would not let the Federation fall. The Krillians, whoever they were, would soon learn the price of threatening humanity's future.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.